Leagues to Equilibrium is here, and I have made an efficient task checklist to get you to tier 3 relics pretty quickly. This will get you your first 2,000 or so points, and the best part is you don't need any other regions to follow this guide, and if you want to keep Karamja locked for faster potential clue scrolls in the starting region, you can do that and then maybe unlock it towards the end of this guide. So I've made a Google Sheet where you can just tick off boxes as you complete the tasks. As you do them, you'll see that they turn green, so it's really easy to just follow along here. The dark lines give points, and the light ones are more like instructions. So for example, get 15 thieving is an instruction. It doesn't give you directly points, but it helps you progress through the task list. I'll have a link to this Google Sheet document below. You can copy it into your own Google Drive. I feel like a lot of other creators have already really covered the relics massively, so I don't think I need to talk too much about it. I'm sure at this point a lot of you have sort of picked what you want to do, but I will be telling you my picks, why I'm picking things, and just the general popular mainstream picks as well. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about all the relics, the blessings, and all that. Maybe not in as great a detail as other people have, because I want to get through it as fast as possible, kind of summarize it all for you, and maybe send you in specific directions depending on what you plan to do for the league. First though, I am super excited to say that my house has made it into the Golden Gnome finalists. I've never been part of the Golden Gnomes before, so this is my first time being nominated for anything. I'm super excited just to be in the nominations. But if you do like my house, please do vote for RainyScape in Best Homestead. Now onto the video. So for the task lists, we're going to be starting in Lumbridge. You're going to be doing some thieving, you're going to be doing some fishing, some mining. We've got some quests in here as well. I've also labeled the areas here, so you know generally where we're doing the tasks as well. Start killing some goblins around here. Then we head to Lumbridge Swamp, and you're going to be doing a bunch of things here. So the idea behind this task list is generally to summarize up a bunch of tasks in specific areas so you can knock them all out at once, saving you a lot of time running around. Otherwise, you might be running off to do one thing, then you run off to do something else. This will give you a lot of focus, especially in the early game where there's a lot of small tasks that don't take a lot of time, but they do add up over time. I mean, we're going to be doing hundreds of tasks here in this task list itself. So after Draenor Swamp, you head to Draenor, and then you'll get your first relic around that point. Now, it doesn't matter what you pick. You can pick whatever you want and continue following this guide, though if you do feel like you want to avert a little bit from the path and maybe do something more specific to your relic, then you could always do so. This is just a general red line that you can follow if you want to. We swing by Barbarian Village to do Stronghold of Security for those 10,000 coins, and it's important to note that you won't be getting as easy coins this time as you did last time through the quest caravan, because that has been disabled for this league. I believe there are still rewards you can get there, but the dice are not there, so you won't get those easy cash infusions from the quest caravan like you did last league. So these 10,000 coins here will help you throughout the following tasks that we're going to be doing. Then swing by Edgeville to grab the lodestone, and then you head to the city of to do necromancy. And we do necromancy relatively early here too. You might not be focusing on necromancy throughout the league, but it is very strong early game to knock out some of the quest bosses that you can then use to power up the combat skills you plan on doing. And just having City of is a nice area as well. There's some resources there that you could potentially use throughout the league, so it's not a bad thing to unlock either early on, and you'll get like around 20 to 25 necromancy just from doing the starting quest. That'll beef you up right there and get you some easy weapons as well to use. You can then head back to Draenor. We do some fishing here, head on over to the wizards to do some rune span, because that's actually a really easy early way to get some rune crafting levels. Then we head back to Lumbridge to do some smithing, process all those resources you got in the Lumbridge Swamp earlier when you were mining. Also do a little bit of fletching here. Fletching synergizes really well with smithing in that you can make arrow tips, though I wouldn't necessarily make tons of it, but at least enough to do the tasks, right? It is generally better to make armor since they give more experience. And Lumbridge has a fishing store now, so it's very easy to get feathers there for your arrows as well. And once you've done all of that, we'll do a Slayer task before heading to Varrock. In Varrock, you're going to knock out a bunch of different tasks, and then you're going to make your way up to Fort 4 and 3, which is going to blast you to the moon in terms of construction experience. Now, I don't believe that New Foundations quest is auto-completed in Leagues, so doing that quest will get you from level 1 construction up to, I think, level 60. It is crazy how much experience you will get from doing that quest. And it's important to note as well that earlier when we got the relic unlock, you want to make sure you pick a relic when you get it, because tier 2 relic will boost your experience higher. It takes you from 5 times experience to 8 times experience, so definitely pick that up as soon as possible. possible once you get to 750 points. Now, I don't know if 750 is the threshold for the tier 2 relic, but it was last league, so I am assuming it is this time as well. And then last time 2000 points was tier 3. So I'm just going by that those are probably the numbers that we're going to be using. Going to be mining a little bit more ore and then heading to Lumbridge to smith it. And then we've got an optional Karamja area that you can choose to do if you want to. There is maybe around 150 points there. I also don't think you'll be able to do a whole lot, if any, agility until you pick Karamja, because I don't think there's any way to train agility in the main area. There may be shortcuts you can train on in Missalin, but Agility Arena on Karamja is going to be the first real way to start actually progressing agility up. So unless you do shortcuts to level that up, you've got Agility Arena once you unlock Karamja. And there are a couple obstacles here that you can do to level it up, but this is also assuming that you don't pick Golden Touch as your first relic. If you pick Golden Touch, you can just ignore agility because it'll just solve itself. You'll get experience as you do anything. So if you pick Survivor or Endless Harvest, which we'll get into in a little bit, you will want to probably go to Agility Arena to progress your agility a bit. So yeah, once you're done in Karamja, you're going to head back to the fort and then finish it up, and you'll knock out a bunch of strong tasks here. Though if you did skip a Karamja, you can just head back to the fort. There are a bunch of random tasks as well to do at the fort, so it's generally a pretty good thing to knock out pretty early. And fort construction is very fast experience anyway, so really there's no harm in doing it at this point. We wrap up some quests here with defeating Count Draenor for Vampire Slayer. And then we actually head on over to Havenheith, because Havenheith has some a good section of tasks here as well that are easy to complete early on. It's going to be one of your few sources of flax too in the starting area, because there is a farm called Marigold Farm that has some flax fields, but there's no place to spin it in Havenheith, interestingly enough. But yeah, you'll end up with like 30 something woodcutting here, and you're going to cut some ivies. Going to knock out a couple quests here. I would also recommend doing Hearts of Sanguine here. I don't know, you don't get any points for doing it, but it does give you access to platinum in the starting region, which I think you actually need the desert otherwise to get, and that might be something you want to use later on in the league. Also gives you access to Silver Quill if that's a boss you would like to do. And then we're going to round off by actually trying to defeat Ivar. I'm not entirely sure how strong we'll be at this point. It's hard to calculate all the experience that you'll be getting throughout all of this. If you can't defeat Ivar, it's no big deal. It's only 10 points. But Ivar is a great boss to strive to get to, because it will be really nice for prayer training, assuming you don't have access to Golden Hawk Feathers. So again, if you didn't pick Golden Touch, Ivar is going to be your source of prayer training, at least on the early levels until you maybe get to like 40, 50. So yeah, of course, you don't have to follow this task list to the T. You can just pick the tasks you want alongside it as well. I'm sure there will be other tasks as well, maybe in the hard sections that give more points that we don't know yet, because this is being recorded before the league starts, and they've only revealed the easy and medium tasks so far, so there might actually be more points that you can pick up easy throughout this. There's also a funny task in Draenor I want to highlight here that may have been fixed from last year. So if you clicked an elder tree last year, even without the woodcutting level, which is 90, you would still get 200 points for just clicking on the tree and then waiting 5 minutes. It was definitely a bug last year. I'm not sure if it's been patched or not, but it is worth noting that you can get a very easy 200 points if that's not been fixed yet. I would assume it's been fixed because it definitely isn't supposed to happen, but I wanted to signal boost that, so you can try it out once the league starts. Maybe you'll get an easy 200 points, which is huge at the very start, where tasks give you 10 points each. That's like 20 tasks right there. So yeah, like I say, you can copy this from Google Sheets into your own Google Drive, and then just tick off tasks as you complete them, and it will turn them green as you do them. I also have some website tools that I'm going to be showcasing for you. I'll drop the links to those below as well. They might help you organize your thoughts during the league. So for this section, I'm going to be showcasing a website called jellyflow.xyz/leagues. This tool is mainly to find where to get PVM unlocks. And you can also build your PVM build here and make sure that it works based on the regions you've chosen. Now, I have a really weird meme setup that I'm planning on going for this league, so it's very out of left field. I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking the same regions I'm picking. The general consensus of good picks for this league is the Caridian Desert, probably as your first unlock, then Wilderness as your potentially first or second unlock, and then finally Anachronia. So Desert, Wilderness, Anachronia is a very popular combination. Preface all of this, I just want to put out a meme here that I thought of, where you ask someone what league regions they're going to be picking. Someone's like, I think Caridian Desert, and then they say, and then maybe some Wilderness, and like, oh yeah, I wouldn't expect that, and then they finish off by saying, oh, and some Anachronia. Wow, how original. And frankly, that is the mainstream combination I see a lot of people picking. And for good reason, honestly. It gives you a massive spread of content. The desert is huge for both bossing and for skilling. You get so many skilling resources in Menaphos. You've got the Sophanum Slayer dungeon. The wilderness has a massive chunk of resources. You also get elite dungeons too, which is honestly just a really favorite vibe of mine. I really like that dungeon in general. I think it looks really cool. And not to mention, wilderness is your main source of classic dungeoneering. Now, there's ways to train dungeoneering creatively as well. You don't need the wilderness to train dungeoneering, but you do need the wilderness to access Daemonheim. Though I also should note that there is going to be an NPC that you can talk to in Missalin that you can spend dungeoneering tokens at. So if you only have access to elite dungeons, you can still use your tokens at that person in Missalin. And then, of course, Anachronia isn't just a good place for bossing. I mean, it gives some of the best rings from the Rex Matriarchs, and those rings will be fully upgraded once they drop. You don't need the Fremenic region to get these ring upgrades in Anachronia, so that's huge. Raksha also has some good ability upgrades, but the Dream of Iaya, where you can AFK skill 6 different relatively high attention skills, is huge. Though Anachronia is definitely a late game area unlock, so I wouldn't recommend doing that until your last region. But the Dream of Iaya was a massively huge solve for a lot of skills last time. I actually ignored largely a lot of the skills until I got that unlocked and then just grinded those to 99. And some of them I even got to 50 mil. So combining Dream of Iaya with time runes and then time skipping with that spell is massive. So those 3 regions are really good for content spread. You'll get massive amounts of things to do, and I think they have a lot of points in them as well. But if you're not picking all 3 of those regions, I don't think that's a throw pick at all, unless you're picking Fremenic. Fremenic is something you should avoid. Nobody should be picking Fremenic, because Fremenic just doesn't have a whole lot of things. As you can see here, you get the Dagonoth Kings. That's about it. The Dragon Hatchet here, and you have access to hand cannons, which is good for invention. And the Dragon Pickaxe is also from Fremenic. But truthfully, I would say hands down it's the weakest region. So I would caution anyone, don't pick the Fremenic region. I think every other region has some good stuff in it, but I don't think Fremenic does. Like Mauritania, you could get noxious components, you could get noxious weapons. Mauritania also has the Barrows, it has Rise of the Six. It's also your main source of Slayer helmets if you're not picking a Slayer relic. Asgarnia is just really well-rounded as well, because not only do you get the God Wars dungeon with Nex and all those classic bosses, but you also actually get access to the entire Arc region in the Eastern Lands. And there's a lot of high-level skilling locations there. Not to mention that the Angel of Death Nex fight gives you the best prayers in the game. So Asgarnia is a solid region to pick as well. Kandarin is a region that you would pick if you're into skilling. Pretty much no bosses there. You get access to the Ascension Crossbow, but that's about it. Nightmare Gauntlets as well, but the main draw of Kandarin is that it's vastly large for skilling, and there's a lot of skilling unlocks there too. So I don't think Kandarin's a bad region at all. It's just mainly focused for skillers rather than people doing bossing, so just keep that in mind. Turinwen also, you do get access to Solak in Turinwen, but it is mainly a skilling region in the form of Prifddinas having a lot of skill solves. If you're picking Nature's Network Relic as well in Tier 3, you 100% want to pick Turinwen. Nature's Network has massive synergy with Prifddinas, because it essentially lets you train any skill through Guthix butterflies that will give you experience in your lowest skill, and those are connected to farming, so I'll get into that a little bit later. So before I tell you my strategy, I just want to preface this by saying that I have not seen a lot of Sunny in Philadelphia, but this is going to sound like the Pepe Sylvia thing, because I realize how unhinged that this might sound. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't. But essentially, my choices have been morphed by wanting to unlock a piece of masterwork. Now, masterwork is probably something I would caution against going for in Leagues, because you need so many resources and time to make it. And you need very specific regions as well to even be able to make masterwork, because you need items from so many different places in the game. And I've landed on wanting to main magic. So my plan is to make masterwork magic armor, which means that I need Asgarnia for Virtus armor. I also need to do player-owned ports for that, so that's also in Asgarnia. Honestly, it's not a bad idea anyway though, because Asgarnia gives you access to the crafting guild and burial smithing, so that'll help me out a bit. My second pick then has to either be Kandarin or the Wilderness, and I've ended up deciding to go for the Wilderness, not because it has any specific resource, but because there's a store in the Wilderness that sells a crafting component I need for the armor. Additionally, also in the Wilderness, if you're doing Elite Dungeon 2, you will get Tectonic Energy, which you need for Masterwork Magic. And if I didn't pick the Wilderness, I would have to grind out Virago to get Tectonic Energy. And I'm not upset about picking the Wilderness, it gives me access to Dungeoneering, which is good. And then my final pick is going to be Turinwen. And at this point, you might be squinting your eyes a little bit. Like, Rainy, why are you not picking the desert? The desert's like the most amazing place ever. And right now, I'm not ready yet to tell you why I'm picking Taronwyn. I'm gonna leave that as a mystery. There is a reason for it, and I'm hoping that my crazy plan works. But my thought process is if I'm not picking Anachronia, then I should pick Taronwyn, because Prifddinas covers so many skills, and it is useful for what I'm planning to do. Now, it's going to be weird, because I was wanting to pick Anachronia. I absolutely loved AFKing in Dream of Yaya last year, and frankly, I was kind of leaning toward picking Desert as well, until I decided to do this crazy thing I'm doing. But effectively, my Masterwork Magic plan requires these 3 regions, and so that's why I've landed on them. I could substitute Wilderness for Kandarin, of course, and I am relying on Golden Touch to get some of the resources I need, but I also can't really make the Masterwork armor until towards the end game because it requires really high levels to craft. So it gives me plenty of time through Golden Touch to get the resources that I need. I don't expect a lot of people to pick this combination, so it's going to be fun to see if anyone else did it. So I've locked in Asgarnia, Wilderness, and Taronwyn as my main picks. I found this league planner on Reddit. I'll link this one also in the video details below. Just make a copy of that if you want to. This spreadsheet was created by Merle07. A very cool spreadsheet. Thank you so much, Merle, for making this. What's pretty neat about this spreadsheet also is that it shows you the Slayer Masters you've unlocked, the dig sites you have access to, and it shows you through your relics which skills you have boosts for. So if I pick Golden Touch, for example, now you'll see that Prayer has been semi-solved, Agility is solved, Thieving is solved, and Herblore is semi-solved. And as you pick the relics, it will fill out the rest of your skill solves. The RSGuide.com/leagues also has something similar to this, so you could always just go to that website as well. They do a similar thing. The RSGuide.com also has this in their league section, the skilling solve section. This might be more accessible since you just have to go to a website, so you could always use that too. So now that you know my regions, what relics am I going for? So I really wanted to do Endless Harvest this time because I'm a big fan of AFK, but my problem with Endless Harvest is that you don't actually get any tools from it. And while it does infinitely let you skill, things like, for example, wood cutting, you actually do have to wait around for the tree to respawn. If someone else cuts your tree down, for example, you have to wait for it to grow again. So all it takes is one person to ruin your AFK-ness, and then you have to stand around and wait for the tree to come back. If a fishing spot moves, your character will run after it automatically and start fishing again, so that's really nice. And then yeah, if the tree regrows, then you will automatically start cutting it again, but you don't want the tree to just be gone, right? You'd rather move on. You're wasting time if the tree's gone, essentially. It does help mining as well. I don't think it's a bad relic though by any means, and I think if you have work, for example, or you can't play tons, then this is a fantastic relic that you can have in the background running while you're, for example, doing something else. Very casual, friendly pick. And Survivalist being the complete opposite, where it's very active. You get a survivor bag, so you get a lot of resources you can put into that. It also does help with archaeology, for example, which I don't really have a good solution for at the moment, because I am planning on picking Golden Touch for the first one here. This will give me agility experience, it will give me infinite coins, essentially, trains your prayer, and pickpocketing is insanely strong in RuneScape 3. You have access to so many resources, and they get tripled as well, and noted if you have this relic. They also add additional herbs and secondary ingredients to chests and safes, and that's only with this relic, so it has a really good potential, and I'm actually combining it with Divine Druid. Now, I wasn't planning on going Divine Druid at the start. I really wanted to use Superheated because it gives you resources when you're doing smithing, and it's also really great for smithing. Keeps your heat up all the time, all that good stuff. But I've decided to go for Divine Druid because it actually solves summoning. Gives you a ton of charms. It also helps with divination, which I don't have a good place to train since I'm not picking Kandarin, where the best place is. And since I'm not picking that, I have to do traditional divination, and this will help with that. I'm picking Prifddinas, so the unlocking melee or potion recipes doesn't really matter to me, and since I have infinite money through Golden Touch, I can just buy those relatively easily anyway, but this will help me train summoning quite a lot. And since I don't have the Dream of Yaya, I can't just stand there and do Herblore. So this will just give me massive amounts of herbs. Animal Wranglers got some nice benefits to Big Game Hunter, but I don't plan on doing a whole lot of Hunter. So I would say Animal Wrangler is really good if you're going to Anachronia or you have Kandarin. And outside of that, I don't think I would pick it. And then since I am picking Prifddinas, I am picking Nature's Network as well for my tier 3. Not only does it give me a mushroom that allows me to teleport to fairy rings, spirit trees, and all farming patches, but all of my patches are harvested instantly when I plant them. You get free ultra compost, which isn't a big deal because you can transmute compost, assuming you have the transmute relic. You save seeds when you plant them. You get massive amounts of herbs from this too, so I'm going to be swimming in herbs. But the main pick with this one and Prifddinas is the fact that every hour, Prifddinas boosts 2 of the Elven clans, and when the Cruis clan is boosted, farming there will spawn Gothixian butterflies every time you harvest the crops. And since I'm harvesting things instantly with this one, I will get tons of Gothixian butterflies, which will give me tons of experience in my lowest skill. So I can effectively train every single skill through Gothixian butterflies by using this relic. I did that last league, it was insanely strong, so Nature's Network is just a must pick in my opinion if you are picking Thriftiness. I was wanting to go Voidwalker because I think Voidwalker sounds really fun, just getting tons of resources through the Void Shards. I'm a little bit disappointed that I won't be getting that one, because that was my initial pick. But Nature's Network just feels like it's a must pick since I am going Thriftiness. If I wasn't picking the Wilderness, it would also be even better to pick Nature's Network because then I could train Dungeoneering through farming, right? But since I am picking Wilderness, it's not mandatory for me to do so. I can always train Dungeoneering in the Wilderness the traditional way. Assassin's Insight, I don't think it's as good this time around as it was last league. I picked it last league, it was great then, but I think the other picks are more interesting this time around. Now, I was excited for Tier 4 because I loved Transmute in Old School League. For Demonic Pacts, I was transmuting constantly. And I was going to pick it here too, but I have been forced to pick Crystal's Grace. Because you see, since I'm maining magic, I can't pick the desert and still get all the unlocks I want. And Crystal Grace gives me all magic spells. So that's the only reason I'm really picking it. Because this mainly boosts rune crafting. It gives you access to an Omni Tiara so you can enter all rune crafting altars. It teleports you to the altars even. But I don't really need that because I have access to the Abyss through the Wilderness. It will make runecrafting a lot more chill though. I will get Crystal Essence when I'm skilling, and that's stackable pure essence that I can use at any altar. It also does help with necromancy, so it just makes it nicer for me to train that through rituals, since I'm essentially not losing resources when doing that. And it also has a really minor upgrade to prayer as well, which I'm not really in need of since I have Golden Touch. But whenever I offer bones to an altar, I will get an extra dragon bone worth of experience. I'm mainly picking Crystal Grace for unlocking all spells, so I can have ancients outside of the desert. Transmute, for example, could be huge for people who just don't have access to certain resources because of the region locking. I don't think Antiquarian is bad either because it massively boosts your archaeology, which has some really nice perks as well through it. But truthfully, the regions I've picked just don't really align with archaeology that much. I don't have that many dig sites, and I think Sentistan might even be my best one. I don't have Kandarin for Warforge, I don't have Kandarin for the Armadillo Citadel, I don't have Desert for Caradet, so there's a lot of places I'm just missing out on. I just have the base region areas, really. So I didn't pick Antiquarian because I don't feel like I'm really focusing on archaeology. For Tier 5, I actually think the fun pick would have been Devout. So Devout gives you a 32 slot yak, and it gives you access to the bank no matter where you are. It also massively increases damage of summoning familiars, which is kinda neat. You'll always have a pack yak following you essentially with this thing, but since I am creating Masterwork armor, for my build, I have gone Production Master. I think they massively nerfed the Clue Relic this time around. It's still decent, but it's a lot weaker than it was in Catalyst League. But yeah, back to Production Master. What really caught my eye on this one is that Masterwork items now take 1 action to complete, which basically saves me 15 hours of creating Masterwork armor. It also gives me Brooch of the Spirits, I get infinite supply of Exquisite Urns. It gives me a +6 level boost permanently to a bunch of processing skills, Never Burn Food, and various production activities have their items processed at once, meaning that I can just click process, it will do it instantly and send it. I can cook an entire inventory of food in an instant and it will not burn. So things like that are really good. I think Production Master will be a popular choice, but I also think that a lot of people might pick Devout. I think the Clue Relic this time will suffer a bit and not as many people will pick it. Next up for Tier 6, you could pick Rejuvenated and pick up a relic from the previous tiers if there is something that caught your eye. But I am picking Perfection. Now, Perfection has been massively nerfed since last league. You don't get infinite materials anymore, but you do get an XP capacitor box, which will help you level up Invention through using combat. And it also gives you a little toolbox that you can remove and add gizmos to. That way, if you got some skilling perks you want to add, you can just throw them in the box, then you can remove them, add your combat perks, and you're instantly good to go. You don't even have to augment your armor at that point, which is great for me because I don't have access to dragon tools. And since I don't have access to dragon tools, I can't get crystal tools. But what I can do is smith myself some tools, and then with Perfection, I basically have augmented tools regardless. since I just throw them into this little box thing, and that works as if my tools are augmented. The downside to this one is I'm not picking Kandarin, because Kandarin has Ancient Invention, so I won't be able to get Ancient Gizmos without Kandarin. And so I'm locked to regular invention, which is fine, but I just can't get the best perks. What's cool about this one too though is since I'm picking Asgarnia, it synergizes really well with that because I have access to the machines in the Invention Guild. So they run 10 times faster, and when I'm disassembling anything, I get 10 times the amount of materials. It's not as good as last league where you had infinite materials, but augmented items and machines don't use any charge. And because of this, I don't need all the energy that Voidwalker would have given me. So Voidwalker doesn't actually synergize that well with Perfection, because they both kind of solve the same thing. You get tons of Divine Charge with Voidwalker, but you don't need it if you have Perfection. Yeah, it also boosts the capacity of machines by 10 times, perks are triggered 20% more often. It doesn't stack with level 20 items, but you do essentially have level 20 items all the time with this, and then all blueprints are also unlocked, so that's really good. And then for my final pick, it's actually more of a comfort pick for me that I'm going Icenic Faith. Now, I didn't get to try out Endless Faith last time, but I heard a lot of people really liked it and enjoyed it. So last time, your prayers didn't drain your prayer points. This time, it still does, but it does the same thing. You get protection prayers that also act as lifesteal at the same time. So Protect from Melee and Soul Split would be active at the same time. You do get this massive 50 prayer bonus from a tome though that you can put in your pocket slot. And this tome also gives you crit strike chance and base ability damage increases for all the prayer points that you have. So for a crit magic build, this is actually really good. Protection prayers also have full protection rather than half protection, so you won't be taking any chip damage from that. So like I say, it's more of a comfort pick for me because I didn't get to try Endless Faith last time. I picked the Crazy God book last time, and I really wanted to experience that. So this is me experiencing it through Icenic Faith instead. But the other two choices do have some interesting effects too. Naragi Edicts, for example, gives you this little sliver in your inventory that you can click on every 90 seconds, and it will heal you for 40,000 health. Every second for 4 seconds, it blasts you with 10,000 healing. The sliver itself stays active for 16 seconds, and it boosts your stats up to 255, which scales really well with the tank armor build that a lot of people are planning to go through the blessing system. And if you die within those 16.8 seconds, it also revives you, so it is actually a way to get around instant kill mechanics. And that's notably something that Icenic Faith can't do, though you can likely only use this once every boss fight because there's a 90-second cooldown. But it will be interesting to see if people can skip mechanics using this one, because maybe you can survive deadly attacks that you weren't supposed to survive using this. I will leave that up to the crazy PVMers though, the crazy bossing players. They are sure to have a field day with this, trying to break some of those bosses. And then finally, Infernal Fire isn't super exciting, but it gives you an Avernic Star item, and if you have this item in your inventory or in your pocket slot, every combat style will always add Deathmark to your target. Deathmark will kill your target when it has 20% health left. It also benefits combat in general when you're fighting small creatures because it gives you extra adrenaline while you kill things, and it has some pretty decent stats as well. Though I would say that Infernal Fire probably is the least exciting of the three. It's by no means weak though. I think there's definitely use cases for it, but I don't think it's the most exciting pick, so I don't think it's going to be picked that much. For a casual player, I would say that Icenic Faith is probably the pick, and then for people who are really into PVM, that Naragi Edicts is probably what they're going to be going. So once you're done picking your relics, on the RSGuide website, you can also see what skills you have solved and which ones you don't have solved. It will even tell you what to do for the different things. So, for example, Production Master is boosting my fletching, my crafting. Divine Druid is boosting my hunter. It also gives you ratings of how the website thinks you've solved skills. And since I don't have any archaeology enhancements, it's giving me a B tier on the solve for that. I don't have any real smithing things. Truthfully though, I don't think you can get S rank on everything. I think you have to give up some things to get other things boosted up. But what's weird here though is that mining isn't being considered for the Arc and for Prifddinas, because Prifddinas has AFK corrupted ore, which would also help smithing, but it's not mentioning either of those for some reason. And since I have Production Master, I'm assuming that I can instantly burn all the corrupted ore, I gather. So yeah, maybe just some oversights, but yeah. Now for the blessings, I don't think you have to worry too much about the blessings because you will get 3 rerolls throughout this league. So you can try different builds of combat if you want to. And that's why my build here that I'm showing you now will be my starter build. In this combat build, I've prioritized blessings that will help me out more in the early game until I get to the late game where my crazy meme build is gonna shine. Crossing my fingers that it works. Might be cooking something that's really burnt here and it doesn't work at all, but we will see when I get to that point. Now the combat blessings in this league are kind of interesting because they are themed after Zamorak, Saradomin, and Guthix. They're all god themed. So I'm starting off with Terragard's Aegis. Adrenaline Junkie isn't too exciting, it just gives you more adrenaline really. Big Bone scales your damage based on your maximum HP, and Aegis actually gives you some passive healing. You get health regeneration based on your max life points, which is also doubled with defenders and tripled with shields. So that regen might come in handy, especially if it happens in combat, though it may only happen outside of combat. But my ability damage is also increased based on my armor, so having tank armor with this one actually increases my damage. For second one, I'm going Striking Light. This one will spawn attacks every 9 seconds when I'm using my basic attacks, and those light beams do damage to surrounding enemies. It also just increases my attack damage by 40%, so that's really good. On the flip side, Bark Scales will blast your enemy with some poison every 5 times you take damage. You do have to take damage though for this to count. So if you're being hit zeros, Bark Scales is not going to activate. And then Abyssal Cinders just increases your damage. Essentially, it does extra damage. For the third one, I'm picking Steadfast Will. So you see I've picked only Saradomin blessings. This one empowers some defensive abilities. So Bash, Preparation, Reflect, and Revenge abilities get upgraded. Bash deals massive damage now. 400% damage from Bash alone, based on your armor value. You can scale that up to some insane numbers. Preparation now reduces the cooldown of all abilities by 12 seconds, which is crazy. Reflect will reflect 100% of the incoming damage, and it also scales on your armor value, so again, this is just funneling into that tank armor meta. And then Revenge has its cooldown doubled, so it's longer, but the maximum stacks you can get from Revenge is doubled as well. I did actually want to go Eternal Sustenance for tier 3. I think in the early game, having infinite food could actually be quite useful, and it does allow you to simply spam eat food constantly and not lose adrenaline, which is really interesting. Yeah, so food just doesn't get consumed with that one. And Avernic Rampage, it might be interesting for some people. For 7 seconds, you just don't need any adrenaline to cast anything. If you have good timing, I would say that one might be interesting, but I'm not picking that personally myself. I think my defense abilities will make up for the fact I don't have Eternal Sustenance, at least that's what I'm hoping. And so for the fourth blessing, you actually don't get to choose this one. The fourth and the 8th blessing will pick based on your previous 3 choices. So if you mainly go down Guthix or pick a balanced amount, you will get the Guthix one. If you have more points in Zamorak, you will get the Zamorak one. And if you have more points in Saradomin, you get the Saradomin one. So it's actually easiest to get Guthix because you can see all these different combinations will give you Guthix. If you just go full Guthix, you get Guthix. You have to pick 2 Saradomin or 2 Zamorak to not get Guthix. But since I'm going full Saradomin anyway, I get Sacred Fervor. And this actually just reduces the cooldown on all of my abilities. So I'm not mad about that. That's really good. Splash Zone increases the damage of AoE abilities and even scales on the size of the target. So it will do more damage to larger enemies. Whereas Demon's Mark is kind of boring. It just gives you more accuracy. It's not exciting. Then for tier 5, I'm picking True Equilibrium. And I'm doing this because I actually have Saradomin, Zamorak, and Guthix planned into my build. And for every god alignment you've chosen, you get a ton of boosts. So I'm hoping that it counts my god things from the previous tier. I'm not entirely sure if it does. If not, I will get 2 boosts because I'm picking Guthix and Zamorak for this one. But I'm hoping that it also counts the Saradomin ones I picked earlier. The other 2 on tier 5 are kind of funny too. Higher Power actually deletes your Death Swiftness, Living Death, Sunshine, and Berserk abilities, but it increases your base damage by 30%. So if you don't have access to some of these abilities, then this one actually has some use cases, but otherwise I probably wouldn't pick that one. It's not really one that's appealed to me either anyway, so. And Havocborn decreases your armor value and your maximum life points, but increases your damage. So very Zamorakian. Turns you more Glass Cannon build. For tier 6, I'm picking Unholy Ritual. Since magic has a sort of affinity with critical strike chance anyway, I will gain 15% critical strike chance with this. So my crit strike chance is capped at 50%, and anything over that will just get funneled into crit damage instead. It also just gives me more damage, so well, that's something. I guess all the Zamorak ones just do that, right? The other ones are kind of interesting too, though. Tearing Thorns, for example, from the Guthix one will give you more damage over time. They last longer. You get Grasp of Guthix every 5 times a damage over time thing triggers, and that just does damage based on your max health. Boosts your poison damage. So again, it synergizes with Bark Scales from the earlier Guthix blessings. And then finally, Lord of Light is up here. Lord of Light sounds kind of similar to Striking Light in that it spawns Lights of Saradomin that pop down. It scales off your prayer bonus, heals you for 5% of the damage it deals, so you get small amounts of healing. But the attacks this spawns do land on random tiles, so you can't really tell where they're gonna go. Has a 15-second cooldown. And if we move on to tier 7, I'm going for Perfidious. This one empowers the Inferno of Zamorak, Grasp of Guthix, and Light of Saradomin, and the cooldown is reduced to 4.8 seconds down from, what was it, 10? So original cooldown is 9 seconds, it goes down to 4.8, so it halves the cooldown. It also boosts the other ones. Envenomed will boost your poison damage, and if something is immune to poison, this will still poison them for 30 seconds, which is kind of interesting. And then finally the Saradomin one is Tempered Heart, which just gives you tons of adrenaline. Every second or so, you get 6 adrenaline. So it's just pumping you full of adrenaline, essentially. So depending on which ones you pick of the 5, 6, and 7, that will generate your 8th one as well. Based on my picks, I will end up with Chaotic Insight. I think this is one that could potentially give some interesting results. Effectively, equipment that has perks now counts as 3 of that item when equipped. So if I have 1 piece of Crypt Bloom, for example, on, it will count as 3 pieces, which means you can basically mix and match tons of different outfit sets that you have access to and get all the perks from all those sets without having to wear all the pieces of armor. The Guthixian one is called Power Archive. This one gives you a little automaton bot that you can store 20 weapon and armor gizmos into. Now this one is amazing if you have Candor and an Ancient Invention. It still might be pretty decent with normal invention. It does also double the rank of your gizmos, so if you have a level 2, it will go to level 4 instead, for example. So it definitely has some use cases. I'm not entirely sure how strong it would be, though. And then finally, Genesis Essence is the Saradomin one, which just scales your weapons to level 120. So you'll get more damage, more accuracy from those. Now this isn't my endgame build. This is I'm progressing through the league build. There is a chance that I don't even reach tier 8 before I reset, so this is just what I've gone for so far, and we'll see how easy it is to get the Combat Blessing unlocks. Assuming I can get them early, this is what I would pick, and then once I have my endgame build done, I will just redo my entire blessing thing, and I'll probably make another video on that. Another amazingly useful tool I would like to spotlight for this video is the task list on the wiki. Now most people probably are familiar with this, but on the wiki, you can select the regions that you have unlocked and it will filter out all the tasks you can do. You can also sync up your in-game account to the wiki and it will hide tasks you've completed. If I do a whole bunch of these tasks, for example here, and if I click hide completed, it will just remove those tasks. And this also syncs up automatically with the game, so you don't even have to tick them off yourself. You can just look up and it will refresh. Now this doesn't work until the league starts, but... And once the league has started as well, there will be a percentage on the side here, I think, showing how many people have completed each task. So it'll be very easy for you to follow that guide if you don't know what to do. Generally, tasks with higher completion rate means that they're easier to do. Though keep in mind that some people might have different relics than you do, so they might have an easier time doing some tasks as well. I'll have links to all of these things in the video description. I'd say it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed with leagues because there's just so much information going on. It's hard to choose options, especially this year, because the relics are so evenly balanced, in my opinion, across all the different tiers. Last league, they said there was no wrong choices, but I think this time in particular, there really isn't a wrong choice. And it also kind of depends on the regions you're picking. So yeah, that's my plan for leagues. Please vote for me in the Golden Gnome Awards. I've been wanting one for so long. Still blows my mind that I'm in the finalists. Good luck. I hope you have a blast playing leagues. I will be posting some more videos of it. Like video, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.